the oh, this meeting is being live streamed. Okay, that's Zoom telling me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Let's see.
if I'm just on the Julien-K
The
YouTube page, this
oh,
meeting is being live streamed. Okay, that's
there
Zoom
it
telling me.
is. Mm-hmm. Yep, we're on. Let's see.
If I'm just on the Julien-K,
Okay, so we're live on YouTube. Let's see here. Hello, people in YouTube land. So today we're gonna do something different. We're we're also on Zoom, but we're also going to be live streaming this to YouTube today for fun. This is only the second time that we've done this Signals in the Void session. And basically, what this is today is Fu and I are going to go pick an extremely influential record for us. It can be from any era. Most of them tend to be obviously from the 80s. Yeah, and then we're going to go through, listen to some things, and talk about it, and how it influenced us, how it taught us things, how we enjoyed it, how we found out about it, everything that we can think of to talk about regarding these albums. We've got a couple more minutes on Zoom here, but I think I'm gonna maybe start letting people in.
so did you post it on Patreon?
I did, so I'm letting a few people in right now. Hello, everyone. We're going a little bit early today because I've also put this on YouTube today, so that people can see some of the things that we do on Patreon. We've only done this once before, and it was really fun. Fu and I picked some records and talked about, why these were very influential for us, and it was really fun. So we decided to try it again today, and kind of throw the net out a little wider. Happy Sunday, Kevin said. How are you guys doing? Oh, look, we get to see Julian today. Awesome. So what part of France are you in, Julian?
You can unmute yourself, I think.
Does he have a mic? I don't know. He might not have a mic.
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are. Nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you all, guys. I'm from northern France, just near the Belgian frontier border.
Awesome. Nice to finally meet you, and thanks for supporting us here.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, today's going to be fun. Let me let some more people in. We're starting a little early, so I'm sure some people are going to be coming in. I'm going to start off by playing one of Fu's influences. So we have music in the background. Oops.
All
Start
that
it
we see
here.
or see is but a dream within a dream.
I was trying to
We'll wait. Let's wait until everyone gets here.
yeah,
I got a couple more minutes, so I figured we'd let people try to figure out what this is, although they probably can see it behind me, maybe. Maybe I need to hide it. You guys hear it okay?
this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, this much let me avow: you are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away, in a night, in a day, in a vision, or a none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream.
I'm still letting some people in, so time.
I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hands grains of golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep.
Yeah, this first song is pretty mellow,
While I weep.
and obviously a very interesting choice for
Can I
Fu
not
is
grasp
this
them with a
record.
tighter clasp? Oh God, can I not save one from the
This
pitiless
is
way?
not the hit song or the
Is all
popular
that we
song.
see or see but a dream within a dream?
I thought it would be a nice way to open. Some chill music on a sunny Sunday afternoon. Still got a few more people joining, so I'm just kind of letting this play out for the moment. And you guys are supposed to start guessing who this is without looking at the screen. No cheating. This is Fu's secret sexy jam. Wow, drummer's going crazy. Is it programmed? No? Okay. Oh wow. Okay, well hold on to that one.
Different label.
Huh, okay. Alright, I think I'm gonna fade this out now.
Hello, everyone.
Alright. Now we'll get back to it here. I think it's enough time now that most people are in today. Hope everyone's doing well on this nice Sunday. We've actually got some sun here in California.
Was uncredited Stuart Copeland on the drums there.
You're kidding me.
From the Police, yeah.
Wow.
I guess they couldn't credit him because he was under contract to
IRS. Wow. All right, so this is only the second installment that we've done of Signals in the Void. This is where we pick influential records that not only for Julien-K, but just as us as people and musicians and artists. We actually haven't done this with Ryan yet. This will be fun to do sometime with Ryan, but kind of came up with this when Ryan was on tour or away for something that Fu and I could get into and talk to you guys about. And it's really fun because, I mean, some of these are surprising. You know, last time I picked Judas Priest Screaming for Vengeance, which I think was probably very surprising for some people, but I think once I explained my reasonings behind it, I think everybody got it. And then, what was my other one? God, I don't even remember.
New
Oh,
Order.
New Order. New Order, Low Life, which that one's obvious. And then yours, what were your last two, Fu, that we did?
The Soul Mining.
Right, the
And the other one.
right,
Love and Rockets.
right. Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven, which I think for both of us, I mean, Love and Rockets is one of my favorite bands too. So that was really something for both of us. Funny enough, the is a band that Tom Dolan, our graphic design and basically, band member over the years, who designed everything really for us, almost everything, and continues to. The is a big band for him, funny enough. So, but today we're going to do round two, and we're going to pick some more records. Wow, there's still people coming in here. Get them in. Yeah, so we're going to pick a couple more records here to talk about, play a little bit of music. And I started off already with one of them. I guess I should divulge who this is now.
Propaganda.
Yeah, Propaganda. And as always, when we do these, I like to actually have the actual vinyl. I pull these out of my collection for us to talk about. And I think, I mean, I'll just briefly talk about this for a second because I'm sure Fu has a lot to talk about. The only reason why I know about this band, believe it or not, is because of Tim Palmer.
Oh.
Yeah, Tim Palmer actually turned me on to this band. He I don't remember when, but he told me, he's like, "Hey Amir, I meant to tell you, I think you'll really like this band Propaganda. Do you have any of their music?" And I said, "No, I actually don't. I've not heard of them." And then I got this record. I actually have two records, Fu. I also have another one that I think is kind of like
the remix album.
Yeah, the remix album.
Yeah.
Yep, I have that one too.
But that's it. That's pretty much all they did. They broke up after this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So I'll let you talk about it now. So, wow, there's a lot of people still coming in here. I'll let you take over because I don't really know too much about this band, but I do like this record. And thanks, Tim Palmer, for turning me on to it, because Fu didn't actually turn me on to them.
Interesting. Yeah, and this would have been when Tim was telling you about it, it would have been 20 years old.
Yeah.
Came out in 1985, and we were working with Tim around 2005-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was 20th anniversary already. This was like so in 1985 I was like 22 years old. That's prime time for like when, and also prime time for 80s music, like this kind of music. And what it really was like, it was like the dawn of the digital age. DX7 synthesizer had just come out, which is a digital synthesizer. Sampling was starting to become a thing, that people were using. And one of the geniuses of all that era was Trevor Horn. He produced like the Buggles, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. He worked on Yes, and then even shortly became the singer of Yes.
Mm-hmm. What a crazy story that is.
So yeah, even like Art of Noise, he sort of like invented how crazy sampling should go, like, and all of that was influenced in. He wasn't the producer of the Propaganda record, but he was sort of overseeing it. His I don't know, associate or whatever, Stephen Lipson was the actual producer on this, who also did one of my favorite tracks, Slave to the Rhythm. If you get a chance, look on YouTube for Slave to the Rhythm, the making of. It's just amazing, brilliant how they did it. So anyway, yeah, so it was the digital age. They started using things like the DX7. PPG Wave was really big on this album,
Yeah, I love the sound of those.
and sampling. So the PPG Wave is kind of like a digital sampler, but the samples that it used were little snippets of waveforms. So it kind of took like what analog synths were doing, but it used a digital wave as a source. So it was kind of the next step in synthesis. And then what the DX7 did was, it's called additive synthesis, and they just added sine waves together in ways that pushed and pulled the waveforms in weird ways that were like very, what would you call it? Just a little bit more percussive, or
Well, I think FM is more metallic and more,
metallic.
yeah, it definitely more percussive, but there's definitely more of a metallic sound to a lot of the sounds, which I think is why, you get those types of tones that it makes. And obviously Depeche Mode was big on FM synthesis, and I know that that's a big part of what drew me to them. And still to this day, I really love FM synthesis, and I'm glad that it's made such a big resurgence over the years. And even the PPG Wave has also been seeing a resurgence of sorts through some other companies who are digitally sort of emulating those waves and creating new wave type synthesizers, like the Korg that I have, the Korg Wave State. There's this new thing, it's called a third wave that I saw at NAMM. That thing is a beast.
And they even made it look, with a blue.
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah, it looks like a PPG. Because a real PPG, of course, nowadays is insanely expensive. And for me, I'm not so much about the nostalgia that, oh, I have to have every vintage piece of gear. For me, it's just about new sounds, and I think I love to have, new things too, as much as, we have some old stuff, but we have equally, and if not more, newer type sounds and keyboards and things and drum machines and all of that. And it's fun to really mix and match, but it's obvious, we should play a little more. What would be
yeah, there's a little Easter egg I want to talk about.
Okay.
I think it's just the beginning of Jewel. And,
Okay.
And this goes to my, before you play it,
Yep.
because it's easier to hear me.
Mm-hmm.
So the first sound you hear in there, speaking of Tim Palmer,
Mm-hmm.
the first sound we sampled it, and it's when a percussion hit in Death to Analog, which is a song that we collaborated with Tim on. But I don't think it was his idea to put that sound. I think it was mine. But
Cool.
remember that kind of the toms and everything, and then there's like a percussion hit in Death to Analog. Maybe we'll pull it up later.
Yeah.
That's the first sound you're going to hear in Jewel. And then listening to the song a little bit, you'll also hear kind of samples. Like, okay, so what happened with sampling is, like, they realized we could make a digital recording, basically a little short digital recording of something, and we can play it with assign it to a key, and we can play it with a keyboard, or sequence it with a sequencer, right? And this was kind of brand new at the time, and it blew my mind. Depeche Mode was using it, and these guys are using it, and everything Trevor Horn, especially Art of Noise, was basically the art of the sampler. It's like you can take little snippets of sound and make music out of them, and they don't have to be a recording of a musical instrument. It could be just any sound, right? So that's the whole mind-blowing thing that happened in the mid 80s, with samplers. And we had to survive on very, very short sample times because
Mhm.
digital memory was so expensive, right? So these guys had, like, people that had access to more money basically could buy samplers that had more memory, and Eventually all that cost went down and everybody had it, but at this time it was pretty new. So anyway,
All of that is huge influence on me and Fu as far as producers, programmers, Julien-K, Orgy, especially Julien-K. We've done a lot of stuff where we sort of emulate the sampling techniques of the 80s instead of just sampling things and make them sound pristine. We actually like to sample things and manipulate them in a way that they did in the 80s because of the limitations of what you had available to you, but it actually has a thing. And like what we talked about in, I think it's Institution, the little vocal sample of Ryan is played like it would be if it was put into a sampler in the 80s, very Art of Noise, which is also huge. I actually thought about bringing Art of Noise as one of my influences, but we got tons more. I have I had so many. I was like, God, what am I going to talk about this time? There's so many good ones, But I think I have a couple of good ones that really cover some interesting ground for me personally. But yeah, let's hear the beginning of this now. Oh yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So this is Jewel by Propaganda. Interesting. I mean, I think you guys can hear how this could. You can hear this in Julien-K. There's elements here for sure that Fu has brought to the table. Definitely. It's a bit proggy though. Like we don't get this prog. It almost sounds like Genesis, right? Which honestly was an influence for me, but we just don't get this prog. Is this whole song instrumental too?
yeah, there's versions of it where they just program.
Okay.
That was just kind of making. There might have been, I think, some vocals on it, but I think there's remix versions where they actually use the vocal ideas from the song that comes after it, which was more of a pop single. The eye to eye, winners and losers.
So I recognize this.
Yeah, yeah. That's we borrowed that.
We borrowed it. Yeah, it's a little slower. Sounds like, yeah, I remember that.
But, yeah, so the groove they built, I was really loved that groove they built, and it's just you can hear like 4 or 5 samples, and they're detuned, some of them, and they're just and they're all just just to me that was just so new, and you couldn't make something like that before before samplers were invented. It's just we got this new tool, what are we going to do with it? And these guys, I'm attributing it to Trevor Horn. It's like he's sort of the godfather of it all.
Yeah, totally.
He also did like ABC.
Yeah. Well, he did. God, he did a lot of stuff. But ZTT is it? Or
Yeah, that would be ZTT, but yeah.
Yeah, that's his label, right? I don't remember who he started this label with, but it was in London.
His wife.
His wife. Okay. And then
And
they
bought a
did.
studio.
Yes, and they built that studio, and they did Frankie Goes to Hollywood. That was a big record for them. I'm trying to think who else was on this label. Wasn't Seal on this label later?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think Seal was on. He produced that record, didn't he? The first Seal
Yeah.
record. Yeah, yeah. That's a great record. I'm still looking for that on vinyl. So, hey, my birthday's coming up. If anybody wants to send me an original Seal record from the 90s, I accept gifts.
In good condition.
Must be in mint condition though, or at least pretty good. This one actually has a little bit of wear on it, which is kind of shocking for me, but it's probably something I found really inexpensive because I don't think this record is too well known here so much.
It's not a huge hit.
No, what I was going to play some of these other songs. What was the one? I know there's a couple here that I kind of know, like, recognize. What would
Well,
be
I mean,
would it be
there's
this?
the pop hit. The pop hit is like the one after Jewel.
There's a couple of them here that I recognize. Is it this
Why
one?
does it hurt?
The man without shadow promises you the
Maybe this one?
So here's like a sample bass coming in.
Sounds like a bass player, but it's really. Yeah. By the way, the record is called "A Secret Wish." Some of this stuff would be awesome to cover, It's kind of funny. They have a very jazzy sound. Crazy. This kind of reminds me of that, like, Swing Out Sister or something from, like, the 90s, or whatever that band was called. Her voice is kind of similar to that.
You've been convicted by a kiss. You check too much.
So
Yeah.
Around 207. By the way, on the screen I have the Fairlight. That is the sampler that a lot of the people were using. The other big one was the Emu emulator, but I think the Art of Noise World was
Fairlight, or was it the what's the other one? The can't think of it right now.
emulator.
Yeah, no, there was, what was the other thing that Frank Zappa had? Synclavier.
Synclavier, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these are some of these things were, yeah, like $100,000 or
Yeah, like crazy money. Like, yeah, pretty much the cost of a studio in a box. And a lot of those sounds, like those little samples and things, were actually part of libraries that came with these devices. When you first, obviously you're spending $100,000 on something. They can't just give you something with absolutely no sounds in it.
Yeah.
So they would go and create these vast libraries. And when I say vast, it was probably 100, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not a ton of things, and they were probably all on like floppy disks or whatever. And over time, I think, there was kind of a more vast library of emulator, Synclavier, Fairlight sounds, which a lot of them became a big part of the records that came out in the 80s and 90s. Like those sounds became the signature of so many bands, and you recognize them. Like a lot of times you hear these things. And let me just say one thing too. It's like, for example, the beginning of Thriller by Michael Jackson, that sound, that bow, bow, that was actually a stock sound. I want to say, God, I can't remember which one it was in, if it was the Fairlight or the Synclavier, but it was the stock sound in that. And I think the guy who actually created the sounds or something tried to sue them because there was no royalties. And I mean, that sound is such a signature that starts off Thriller. Can you imagine, like, if you were the guy that created that and then never got paid anything for it?
No,
Other than, it's very, very typical, though. I mean, yeah, pretty crazy.
yeah, so you can get like a virtual version of the Fairlight now as a plugin, and the sound that when you just open up the plugin, the sound that comes up, you can play "Moments in Love" by Art of Noise. It's that kind of fluty do 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 do, exactly the sound. They didn't like put any.
Funny story, I guess my girlfriend Marissa did a whole dance routine to that song when she was like in high school or something.
Wow.
Yeah. I wish I had it somewhere. I'd love to see it. That would be cool because, I mean, I love Art of Noise, and like bands like Yellow too was another group that really did some weird stuff. I mean, they did the "Oh Yeah" song. That was what
Yellow, yeah.
really kind of put them on the map, I guess, in the biggest way possible with Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, can you imagine being that band, the "Oh Yeah" band? I mean, they do a lot of other stuff, though. Very, very, very cool band. Awesome. All right. Well, I think we did a pretty good job covering this.
There's so much more, but just get it, listen to it. It's on Spotify and everywhere. Just so it just defines the 80s for me. When I heard this stuff, it was just like, wow,
So they were from Europe, but the singer was from Germany, I guess.
They were all German.
They were all German.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. That makes sense. I love this. I don't know if it's a shirt or whatever the hell that is on the back cover, but that's very.
Call that a shirt, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Some sort of like wiry thing.
Hoodie, because that's the hoodie part there.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty cool. Wonder what that was.
That's too bad they only did one, and then the singer Brooklyn did a solo album after that. Sort of had, she brought a little bit of propaganda to it, but then it was also a little bit poppy and cheesy, and not as good as propaganda.
Let me lost my screen there for a second. Yeah, I didn't know about that Stuart Copeland thing. That's really cool.
I tried to substantiate it online, but it's not, he's not credited, but I believe that it's true anyway. It sounds like him. Yeah.
It does. Where did you hear that?
I don't remember.
Just a rumor. Awesome. All right. Propaganda, A Secret Wish. Fu's number 1. All right. How do we want to move on to number 2 for Fu?
No, let's go to Amir number 1.
Okay. All right. Let's do that. Let me. Oh boy. This is going to be a tough one. Which one should I go first? All right. I'm going to do this one first. Oh boy, you guys are gonna have a chuckle about this. Oh, I guess they don't actually have the whole album on Spotify. They just have some songs, but I think it'll probably work. All right. Okay, so when I was in Rough Cut, I learned of this record while I was in London. we were on tour, playing in Europe, and I was pretty young. I mean, I don't remember when this record came out, but I must have been 20 or 21. I'm not sure. I was pretty young. And I would have bought the cassette tape because obviously I wouldn't have been able to travel with the vinyl. I don't think I had the vinyl back in the day. It's probably just the cassette and eventually a CD. But I saw and heard about this band while I was there because they were getting a lot of promotion and they were supposed to be the next big thing. Dun dun dun. Hopefully you can see that. Sig Sig Sputnik. I mean, just look at that cover. How can you not love this, even if you never heard anything? I mean, I saw this whole thing and it was like a band that would have played in Blade Runner. That was like a punk rock band from the future. I mean, they all looked insane. Like their imagery was just ridiculous.
Oh, I have a screen share. There you go.
Yeah. So Tony James, the guy on the left, it's really funny. The guy on the right, I don't remember what his name is. Give me a second here. Neil X, they called him. He was like a kind of a Billy Idol, Billy Zoom from X, which is probably why he's Neil X. They obviously borrowed a lot of stuff, but he definitely had that kind of rockabilly look. But Tony James, who came from Generation X with Billy Idol, started this band. I loved his look. Like, I mean, if I could have done anything to have that weird wig thing that he had on his head, I mean, my God, I don't know what the heck was going on there, but it was pretty cool. And obvious giveaway here is that he probably wasn't the first, but he was kind of one of the first people that I saw play the Roland guitar. He wasn't actually using much of the guitar synth, I don't think. Maybe he was. I know he did on the record. Not sure how much he was actually using live or whatever.
Did he just like how it looked?
I think so.
Yeah.
And you should show that other picture that we found. Obviously, that was a huge influence for me, and Orgy and all of that, and even my hair to some degree, you know, and some of the shoots that we did where I made my hair like really big, but I, you know, never was really able to do that kind of craziness with the pink and all that. But like, they had the most insane image. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Yeah, totally, like Kevin's saying, proto Orgy for sure. I definitely borrowed a lot of stuff from them as far as all that goes. Musically, not so much. What's really interesting about this record was that it was produced by Giorgio Moroder, who you guys may or may not know, you know, created dance music. He did a song with Donna Summer called I Feel Love, which was a massive disco hit, but it was 4 on the Floor. Ding 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 ding. And I mean, that's like a huge influence for everyone. He also did the American Gigolo soundtrack, shocker, with our star Julien-K. He did that soundtrack, and he also worked with Blondie, you know, influencing, you know, mixing dance music with, you know, punk rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. And this was kind of one of the records that was really, it was out of left field. I mean, they were doing some crazy stuff. They were using samplers and digital delays and all kinds of stuff. They were just using the studio like it was an instrument. And their music really kind of got panned because of it, because it's all studio trickery, basically, like the whole thing.
Let's hear
But
about
but I fucking loved it. It was just like, how the fuck are they doing all these things? It was so cool. And of course, it's all programmed, and like, I mean, the guitars sound like they were done with Rockmans, which are those little like headphone amps that Tom Scholes made famous from Boston. Like, everything was just like all I can't say it, studio trickery. And so I'm going to play some of this, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. But let me grab Damon's question first.
Amir, how much does that guitar weigh? It looks heavy.
Surprisingly, they're not that heavy.
Okay.
And funny enough, they were made in Japan by a very high quality factory there. There used to be, I think, 3 top quality factories in Japan that made guitars. I think there's only one left now, unfortunately. And the quality of the guitar is actually really good, which is why I ended up using it in Orgy, because not only does it play good, it actually sounds really good. And funny enough, and I don't know why, I was able to tune it down to a B, even though it's not a baritone, but I was able to intonate it and tune it to a B. And that was kind of the beginning. Well, it's actually lower than that. In Orgy, we tuned to B flat. And I was able to tune it down, put the heavy strings on, and intonate it. So that became really my first guitar in Orgy. Because when we talked about creating Orgy, I was mostly doing engineering and making records with other bands at that time. I wasn't really sure that I wanted to be in a band again. I was kind of burned out on it, to be honest. And I had been doing some stuff with Jay, in the beginning there, working with Jay to try to see if he could be a singer. And during this time, we ended up starting to do this music, and which became Orgy. And on the very, initial demos, they were Josh and Jay, and I was there, and eventually Ryan came into the picture very early on. I had said, well, I'm not sure I want to be in the band. I may just want to produce this. I can work with you guys and, co-write and produce it and all of that, but I'm not sure I want to be in the band per se. And that's kind of how it all started, and we started doing these demos and everything together. And I was playing the guitar as well as Ryan. Jay was playing bass and doing the vocals and some of the drums too, even in the beginning. And then eventually, when it started to come together, and I started to hear, we had written Stitches, and I can't remember the other song, if it was Fetisha or God, I don't remember. There were a couple of the very early demos that we did. I started to realize that there was something there that had never really been there for me in any of my other bands. And although I didn't still really want to be in the band, I knew that we were on to something. And eventually, they kept asking me, and they just said, look, you have to be in the band. Like, you can still produce and do all this stuff, but like, you got to be in the band. And I said, well, I just don't know that I want to do this anymore. So I kind of went off, and then I thought about it, and I came back and I said, look, if I'm going to be in the band, then I don't really want to play guitar like anyone's played guitar like before. I wanted to kind of create something new. And I said, well, I'm going to play this Roland guitar synthesizer. And I walked in with the thing that Tony James has with the pedal board and everything. And they were just like, whoa, what the fuck is that? And so they were like immediately like, wow, that's really cool. Yes, 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 yes. And I said, but it's not going to sound like a guitar, guys. Like, this is going to be different. And they were all just like, yeah, whatever. Just as long as I was in the band. I don't think they really knew what it was going to sound like and what I was going to do with it. And that's, obviously, I started to figure all of that out. And none of that, really would have happened without the influence of Judas Priest, which I talked about last time. Sig Sig Sputnik, obviously, for the more visual aspect of it, because sound-wise, I don't think they really used it that much. So my idea was to, sort of meld all of this stuff in some new way, with all these bands that were coming out in the 90s. Everybody was tuned really low. It was really heavy. And so a lot of it had been covered. It's like Korn was already doing this really rad thing, with the two guitar players making the noises and all this. And you had Rage Against the Machine with like Tom Morello and his crazy whammy pedal stuff and all that. And so I was like, what am I going to do that's going to set me apart from all of this? And this was it. And this record was a huge influence on that, being as electronic as it was, and then of course as visual. Everyone in the band, it's like their imagery was just out of control. So let's listen to a little music. So the so-called single was a song called Love Missile F-111, which I'm sure you guys have heard. I mean, it just sounds so cheesy.
The US bombs cruising overhead. There goes my love, rocky red. Shoot it up, shoot it up.
I mean, all the effects are amazing. So, I mean, it sounds like they made the whole record on a Casio. It's like, there's this cheesiness to it, but yet at the same time, it's like, it was so kind of far ahead of its time in what they were doing, And the whole use of the probably still kind of analog delay, right? Even though it was probably a rack mount, or I don't think that was a tape delay, although some of it sounds like it could be. All the delays are like different, so they must have gone I think like 86, 85 or something. I don't know. We'd have to look it up. I can't see it on the record. But like they must have gone in and like recorded all of those delays like on their own track, because they're all different. They all sound different. Like it's not even like, I mean, of course nowadays you could do that kind of stuff live because you could just put it on a track and have playback or whatever. And a lot of these bands like Sig Sig Sputnik were actually doing playback back then. And people were not, they did not like that back then. It was too, the Milli Vanilli thing that happened even later. But in the 80s, like, yeah, everybody's like, that's not cool. Like, you have to play everything kind of thing. So stupid. And it's just like, well, it's kind of a show. So they're not great or anything, but it really wasn't just about that. It was kind of about the spectacle of like what they were doing. And I mean, if you look at the record and all the stuff that's on here, it's just like, it's so cool. Like all this corporate stuff. They have like Japanese writing on here. It's definitely very influenced by Blade Runner. all the art design and everything. I mean, the singer looks, seriously, I mean, like, wow. Martin Degville, I think his name was. His look is just, you have to look it up online, Fu. You got to find some pictures of him. Like, I mean, it's just crazy what he was doing. And I basically bought this record just because I walked into a record store when I was in London, and they had all this display and everything, you know, the next big thing and all this. And I literally bought it. I never heard it. I just bought the tape because I was like, that cover is just too cool. And like, I looked at all the band members and I'm like, this has to be cool.
All right, I got a good one coming up. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see.
Share screen.
Wow. He's like a science fiction, like Indian or something, like with a headdress or something. So crazy. And of course, you know, another big one for me, which maybe I'll talk about another time, is Dead or Alive. You know, Pete Burns. These guys definitely had some similar craziness going on with their looks. Yeah, very Pete Burns. But even kind of on another level than Pete Burns. Like, this guy really went crazy. Let me see what some of these other songs are. Why is it not? And I mean, every drum beat is like exactly the same. I mean, this song sounds just like the first one. But it's kind of funny though, because like the rhythm is kind of punk rock. Oh yeah, there you go. The fishnet over the face.
21st century
Underground has come a machine wrapped in flesh who kills but cannot be killed.
I love all these like movie little interludes and sound effects.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Death Wish 4. Death Wish.
It's the same song, but just faster.
Quiet, are you?
Oh my god. Hilarious. I don't know. There's different versions here. Okay, so this is the advert for the album.
Technology, excitement, records, films, products, real estate and video games.
Real estate.
Sig Sputnik provide all this and more. Let Sputnik World Enterprises handle your ultimate fantasy. For further information, contact the Sputnik Corporation. Pleasure is our business.
So
Wow.
I'm gonna say like it's more about pushing the culture forward than the actual production.
Yeah.
Like they kind of didn't really go over the top. And although there are the production elements of those weird, you know, like using samples, gunshots, all that kind of stuff.
And the delay, the use of delay. I mean, I don't think anybody had ever done that before. And I mean, if I don't know that would be a part of Jane's Addiction sound, you know, if these guys hadn't sort of pioneered that, because Perry used to do that too live. He'd have his own little delay on stage, and he would yell into it and let it loop and loop and loop and loop. It was like a big part of their sound, especially in the beginning.
Skinny Puppy Ogre was doing that too. He had his PCM 41
Yeah.
on a pedestal on the stage, like on a mic stand basically, but it had like a mount, and he would just like hit the hold button and then change the time, and it would go.
So, yeah, I mean, this one, it's not so much the music as it is just the technology and the look, and their whole just way of like selling this product. I don't know, it was just super intriguing to me. And I actually saw them play live, believe it or not, live. They played in Hollywood at the well, it's called the Avalon now, but they played there, and believe it or not, I saw Dead or Alive there too. And both times, both bands were booed because it was so bad, because they were literally just playing to a tape, and yeah, it was pretty funny. I actually there used to be a place here in LA called the Scream, and it was in downtown LA, and it was this underground club, and like all the coolest bands went there, played there, and it was just an amazing scene where I really learned all about all kinds of cool music, everything from gothic music to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction, Guns N' Roses. Like all these bands played there. I saw them play there. But then there was also all the, these types of bands that, would go and hang out. And after their show, they all went to the Scream, and I actually met these guys, and hung out with them, sort of just shooting the shit. And yeah, the singer had his full look. They went everywhere, and he had his full look, even at the club afterwards. So too bad we didn't have cell phones, because I could have gotten some pretty cool pictures probably to talk about. But yeah, anyway, so that's one of my records. And yeah, I'm actually kind of embarrassed that I shared this now.
Why?
No, I'm kidding. No, because it's just so goofy, like it's kind of a funny thing, but when I was looking at it, I'm like,
When we're talking about like influences and that that can encompass a lot of different things. So like an influence in how bold they were to just be weird and different. That inspired you to like join Orgy under the conditions that you play something nobody's played before, in a way.
Yeah, or at least do it in a way that no one's done before, kind of thing,
And then
Take
Orgy's
that.
look, there's influences from that probably, but like
Duran,
but a darker version,
yeah, and like Duran, and
less colorful.
trying to think who else we used to, yeah, but yeah, for sure, it's pretty cool. I mean, right when I pulled it out, I'm like, oh, I got to do this one. So let's move on to Fu's number 2.
I think you could play it just off the top.
Yeah, I will.
So on the theme of digital, very famous analog band goes digital right around, again, when I'm 22, 23, 24 years old. And at the same time, it's Kraftwerk, their Kraftwerk. But this album wasn't considered their best or well received, as it was, other people had learned all of their tricks and stuff like that. But I still think it's a great album. It's on this list because it was influential to me at that time. There was a club called Love Affair in Vancouver where we'd go like Well, I wouldn't say every weekend, but I think there was weekdays involved as well. Right? Yeah.
Super
guys-
cool. I mean, the artwork on this is awesome, and it was probably actually computer generated, which probably back then wasn't super easy to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, in some ways, I can even see some comparison to Orgy's Vapor Transmission and like what we were doing with the art on that. You know, doing these digital renderings of us. That was actually really fucking hard to do, and they didn't come out that great, but they weren't that bad. So Kraftwerk Electric Cafe. I don't know why it's called Techno Pop
Yeah, so
on Spotify.
I was looking it up. So yeah, it was called Electric Cafe when it came out. There was another band that had an album called Electric Cafe.
Oh, did they rename it?
Well, I was trying to read up about that, and the quote from one of the band members was kind of weird, but I think the way that I interpret it was that somebody from the label, you know, did like some, you know, early press release and called it Electric Cafe, and they were stuck with the title.
Oh, really? How
So they
weird.
attempted to call it Technopop, and then, you know, they were, I don't know, there was some ambiguity at the point, and then somebody just sort of made a call on it, and they were like, oh, okay, I guess it's called Electric Cafe.
This is a very iconic Kraftwerk image right there, right?
That's what their live show looks like.
Yeah, that's like super iconic. So was this album completely digital, Fu? Obviously not on vinyl, but
No, they just started using, you know, there's some sampling you can hear, and there's, I would say probably definitely some DX7. I don't know the exact instrumentation at all, but you'll hear stuff, you know, you'll hear instruments that don't sound like analog synths, you know, like everything they did before this.
let's listen to something here.
If you just go Boing Boo Chuck, you'll hear sampling right away.
Music non-stop. Music non-stop.
What'd you say, Fu?
Music non-stop. Music non-stop.
It's very dancey. It's like they got the funk.
Non-stop. Music non-stop. Music non-stop. Music non-stop.
This is a famous one. I love this song.
The number you have reached has been disconnected.
It's really funny too, because you can really hear the influence of Kraftwerk on Rammstein. And like Flocka's parts, you know, that he does in Rammstein. It's a big part of their sound. I mean, what a hook. Like an actual chorus.
All night and day. I give you my affection and I give you my time. Try to get a connection on the telephone.
can almost hear Rammstein doing this song. This would be a great cover for them. So good. Have you guys ever heard that? Have you ever heard that cover that Susie and the Banshees did of the Kraftwerk song?
I haven't.
Hall of Mirrors.
I've not.
It's amazing. It's wow. It's so good. It's not on this record. That's I forget. I think it's on. What album is that on? I forget. God, I don't remember. Anyway, I digress.
So this place we went to every weekend and many weekdays. Let's see if I put that on the screen. The Love Affair had the best sound system in town and was playing like all the music that we loved. So like the like the huge sound system and the minimalism of this Kraftwerk record, and literally they played something from that every night. It just made such an influence on me, just like how clean and tight it was, especially the tightness of it. It was hard, like with MIDI, and we didn't have like digital audio workstations. We had MIDI, but we didn't have like recording onto digital audio where we can line everything up and make it tight. These guys made it tight somehow. They like every beat, there was nothing sloppy about it. It wasn't, I don't know how to explain it. It was just so tight. And when you hear that on a big sound system, it's like, it's magic. So that really influenced me.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if this was the first album, because there was probably some kind of like hip hop records or something. I don't know when what I call the Q sound started, which is the sound, huh?
There was some hip hop records that were, but they were sampling earlier Kraftwerk.
Yeah, so I don't know if they started that sound. That's something I don't, and I call it the Q sound because that's what it was called in the Roland V drum brain. I think it was called the Q sound, but we used it in Stitches. It's the beginning of Stitches, that but I mean, obviously they were using it like quite a lot. I'm trying to see what song. I mean, we just heard one that had it. I don't know why this keeps going. It's not that one. No. What was the one we just heard that had the Q sound in it? Oh, there it was. I just missed it. Right here.
The number you have reached has been disconnected.
Yeah, so we used that in the beginning of Stitches. So, I mean, obviously Kraftwerk is, anybody who does electronic music is got to be influenced by Kraftwerk, because, I mean, they're sort of the fathers of electronic music in the biggest picture, I guess. Like I always say, my little keyboard parts are like kindergarten parts. Their little keyboard melodies are as well. They're not really complex, but they're hooky. And I definitely think that's an influence for me, but also I probably get that from like New Order, and some other bands, but just those very simple sort of keyboard hooks, and even the drum sounds, and probably not so much the rhythms really, but the sounds for sure. Pretty big influence for me too.
There's Inside Love Affair, and for a while they had the wall painted like New Order.
Oh, how cool.
On the left you can see there.
Yeah, what a cool place. That looks like it would have been a lot of fun. We need another place like that now.
Absolutely. There we go.
Awesome. Well, I think we kind of covered that one. So we'll move on to the next one. Let me punch that up real quick.
I forgot what your next one was.
I'm gonna just play it. Actually, a lot of their records I really love, but I decided I'll go to the first one, the obvious one. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just so good. It's so fucking good. And it's like nothing. It's just Doug yelling some shit. So, yeah, there's a little bit of a funny story of how I got to know these guys, but maybe we'll get into that later. I mean, I heard this probably years and years ago, and I guess when I first started DJing, I used to play stuff off of, let me see what the other album is that I used to play. It was Ebhead, and around that time, they also had like a little EP that they released that was really good. And I played a lot of that as well when I was DJing. But I mean, you can't do electronic music, techno, EBM, industrial, and not be influenced by this record, right? I mean, it's crazy that they were so obscure. I mean, they've actually, over the years now, have gotten the respect that they deserve. And, you know, they're pretty popular now, you know, and especially with a lot of bands, you know. Everybody gives them props now, which I think is awesome because they really pioneered a lot of things. And it was, you know, Daniel Miller and Mute Records, who also signed Depeche Mode, of course. You know, their foresight into bringing these guys out to the public. And I mean, they're definitely one of my favorite bands, period. Always have been. I mean, just the sounds, the rawness of the sound, the danciness, but also the attitude of it. You know, it's just it's aggressive in a way that, like, I'd never heard before anywhere. And, you know, again, I don't see how any band that does the kind of music that we do isn't insanely influenced by this. I mean, especially our new single. Wait till you hear our new single that's coming out.
Were you hearing like that when it came out? Because I was, like, that was, again, Love Affair that was playing that every single night.
Yeah. Yes, I did, but I wasn't I sort of like knew about them back in the day, but then didn't really follow them until later, and then sort of picked up on them again, and then kind of went back to it and realized, oh wow, they have, you know, these other two records, and holy shit, these are really good too. And then over the years, my love for them has grown just like it has for everybody else. You know, it's like of course, I knew about some of the early stuff, and then again, like I said, when I was DJing, probably trying to think, I guess it would have been kind of around the late 80s when I started really getting back into them again, but they still weren't really that popular at that time. But I used to play them every night anyway, because it was just so good, and people, always got into it.
That's the thing on those big sound systems, the really simple, undeniable groove stuff that doesn't have too much clutter. It just sounds so good. It just like you'll stop what you're doing and go to the dance floor.
Fast beat the beat. Fast for the hands. Fast beat the beat. Fast for the hands. Melt in the music got drums. Melt in the music got drums.
It just makes you want to move right away. So good.
Choose the fast beat. Choose the hard line. Try to show us one better. Not stick to the hard. Not calling with flesh. Stop the little children. Stop the little children. Stop the little children. Eating in pain. Boys that one, girls that beat. Boys
Oh, there's the Q sound again.
Boys that one, girls that beat. Boys that one, girls that beat. Fast beat the beat. Fast for the hands. Fast beat the beat. Fast for the hands. Hold on to rhythm, the music got drums. Hold on to rhythm, the music got drums. The process alive. Making
God, I love that part, right?
Let your body learn. Let your body feel. Let your body learn. Let your body feel. Stop the little shit.
I mean, it's crazy. It's just vocals, a bass line, and some drums. There's no, I mean, it's just so simple. It's great.
And proving that vocal singing is not necessary. Just kind of the shouting takes care of it. I mean, he tries to hit some things on pitch here and there with, mixed results, but
Yeah.
but no, it's just like this. Yeah, it has kind of angry tones to it, which is 20 somethings feel are moved by. Definitely.
So, funny enough, I probably should have brought both versions, but I actually have another version of this that's 245s instead of just a single album, and wow, does it sound good, let me tell you. I don't remember where I found it, but if any of you collect vinyl, if you can find the vinyl version of this, it says 2X on the front. It's ridiculous. It sounds so good. So, obviously the music and all of that is a massive influence, but again, here the artwork, a lot of the design, the graphic design, their color schemes and things, you can obviously see that this was a huge influence on Julien-K. They're not the only bands that have used these types of color schemes and sort of industrial. Well, you've got like some Russian stuff going on here. Yeah, I don't know. Very cool though. Like just the minimalistic artwork. It's perfect for their music because the music's so minimal. It's just very clean, and like the sleeve also very simple, great design.
Definitely not Sig Sputnik.
No, it's completely the opposite. Yeah, the record is just a boring Geffen label. This is a US one. But yeah, this was a big influence, musically and visually, their graphic design and all of that, for sure, was an influence.
If you want to talk about influence, played manufacture armed forces. This album that I produced probably 1989 or something, so a couple of years after this came out.
Manufactured. Oh, manufacturer. I actually have this record too. Which the TerraVision?
Armed forces.
I don't. Oh, the song. Yeah, here you go. Oh yeah, totally. I love the little orchestra hits. God, those were so overused. It has some like early Ministry vibes too. Yeah, that's cool. I actually have that record too. Did you say you had it, Fu?
I might be missing it. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually have it.
I lost a lot of vinyl.
Yeah.
Fell off the truck along the way.
Oh yeah, Skinny Puppy too, Wes says. Yep, I agree. 9 Inch Nails. Very Black Celebration. Oh, I think he's talking about the Nightser album. Yeah. For sure, Kevin. Yeah, they definitely later night I feel like, I don't know, I guess was the Nightser album was probably out. Was that before Black Celebration? Or is that around the same time?
Very close. I mean,
yeah.
You're talking 87 now? Really?
I'm not sure when this Nightser album came out.
I think it says 1987 right on the sleeve. Inner sleeve.
Did it? Let's see.
Or back. It doesn't say 1987 right on the back there?
I don't think so.
Back of the cover, the actual cover, not the inner.
No.
Dude, show me the back.
This?
Yeah. Turn it around. The front then.
Front. Oh yeah, right there. Duh. You're right. There it is. I didn't even notice that. Good eye, Fu. All right, 1987. So when did Black Celebration come out? Maybe they copied Depeche Mode. 86. So it must have been the thing to do back then. But yeah, well, awesome. This was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. It's always fun going back and listening and kind of learning about things that really influenced us to do what we do. Sometimes it's very simple things from records. Sometimes it's a bigger picture about what the whole band was doing, you know, not necessarily the music so much as the image. Or I think, you know, for me, there were definitely a lot of imagery, graphic design, and elements that definitely had big influence on me and Julien-K moving forward, and Orgy as well. Funny enough, not really much in Rough Cut when I was in Rough Cut, because that wasn't really, I didn't start that band. It wasn't necessarily my vision. That was the beginnings for little Amir at 20 years old that got me to LA. But yeah, those were cool choices too, Fu. Like, I was wondering what you were going to pick, and we always try to do stuff that I also have the vinyl on, so we can actually have a little more of a visual.
We have a lot of vinyl, so it's not too hard.
Yeah, well, but and the stuff that we like. So
Yeah.
in general, I was fortunate enough to get into that game early, because now, these records have all gotten stupidly expensive for original ones. Of course, you can buy reissues, but I personally don't think they sound as good. But that's just me. Oh, Charles says this is my new favorite JK session. Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
maybe we'll do more. Let's get Ryan in on one.
Yeah, we definitely have to get Ryan to do one. I'm sure his will be pretty interesting. All right, cool. Unless you guys have any questions or anything, Fu, what were you going to say?
I just want to say that the 80s are going to be hard to beat. I mean, just,
Yeah.
The innovation that came out as that technology just hit a certain point, but
Hmm.
it was a limited technology, so it forced you kind of to make this kind of music, with these short samples and the simple beats and the simple sounds and everything, and people just took it to amazing creative, places.
Yeah.
It's like, now you can do anything. So what do you want to do? I don't know. Maybe do some of the AI stuff. Like, jeez.
Well, I also think, like, I don't know, just, people were more open to so much. It's just like, you look at the way these bands look, and the imagery, the graphics, the style, and it was just an explosion of expression, and people could do anything really, and they did. And then it all just kind of came crashing down with the grunge wave.
Yeah.
Not that there wasn't good music, because there was obviously some really great bands, but the image stuff just went out the window. It was like the anti-image, and then, like, when we
Orgy brought it
started,
back.
yeah, and then when we started doing Orgy, we were like, fuck that. We're so sick of, like, people walking around in, like, sweatpants and fucking flannel shirts and whatever. Like, let's do something crazy again, And we were like, taking things like Sig Sig Sputnik and Duran Duran, and looking at all these bands. And I mean, even Kiss to some degree, although none of us were really like a huge Kiss fan, but the fact that they all sort of had this image, and that was kind of our idea, is like, we all need to have our own, like, little image, me with the two-tone hair and the space stuff and the robot moves, and like, everybody kind of had their own thing, but then, we wanted to kind of look fashionable. But yet we were from outer space at the same time. Like, I don't know, craziness, but it worked.
Awesome.
So, yeah, awesome. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in today, and I hope your rest of your weekend goes well. Not sure what we're doing next week yet. We're kind of winging it here with Ryan being on tour with the DEMA. So we're, not really following the schedule like we usually do. We're just having some fun, doing different things. We will be back with an acoustic session at some point. We actually did a great one recently, but it's a little difficult finding singers. So we'll see if I can pull something together. If not, we'll figure out another cool thing to do, and then when Ryan gets back, we'll kind of get back on our regular schedule doing that stuff. And he's got a lot that he does as well on his own, which he's not been able to do. So, but cool.
Whatever we do come up with would be Saturday next week, right?
I think so, yeah, because Sunday's Mother's Day.
Yeah, we like to give people.
Yeah, so we didn't want to do something, and I'm actually going to be with my mom. It's also her birthday, so I'm going to be with her on Sunday. So yeah, we'll probably end up doing something on Saturday next weekend. Glad you brought that up. Thanks, Fu. Cool. Awesome. Great to see you guys. Had a nice turnout today. Really appreciate it. As always, thank you guys for your support. You're going to be seeing a lot of stuff coming out now that you guys helped us to create, which is that we have a new video, we have a new single coming, and actually a lot more songs that we're finishing right now. And obviously we've got this tour coming up, and you know, it's because of your guys' support that we can actually do this stuff. It helps a lot, and we really, really appreciate all of you. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, guys and gals.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Yep. Usually at the end of these, everybody unmutes and says bye or whatever. I always forget to say that. But yeah, there you go.
Been a bash. I missed you guys.
Bye.
Aw,
Bye, everyone. See you.
see you. Take care.
And don't forget